Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me and here to provide an update on the Mukuyu-1 well, which we spudded roughly 4 weeks ago, and we've just completed the 12.25-inch hole. We drilled through that and while unlogged it, and we've had a really interesting first up results. I'm sure there'll be some confusion about what the result actually means, and I'll take you through the detail of it right now. So just to recap the announcement, so we've drilled through from the base of the 17.5-inch, drilled out of the cement, and in the 12.25-inch hole down to 2,021 meters, and from there we wireline logged. So as we said in the update, we had a few delays with some failures of MWD tools, so measuring well drilling tools, and a couple of little failures here and there, but that's to be honest, that's part of drilling, and something that we get on with, and we've got a very experienced team and has kept us going. As we've stated, the primary means of evaluating conventional oil and gas targets is through wireline. So although you can have some indications from measuring while drilling, ultimately the wireline results are the ones that count. So we did wireline log the entire section with the Grand Slam tool, that is gamma ray, resistivity, density, and neutron. And in the top zone, in the 200, that's coincidence with this big amplitude anomaly that we see across that broader structure, and I'll show you that in a second. That we had some encouragement from the resistivity, and the resistivity is your primary tool that indicates what your saturation is and what your phase of hydrocarbon is. So with the resistivity, we saw everything that we wanted from the results. We have a big immediate shift over to the right as soon as we got into this nice clean sand. I'll show that to you in a second, what we thought was a clean sand, and some separation between the shallow, the medium, and the deep resistivity readings. Now, resistivity is a tool that is used because hydrocarbons aren't conductive. So brine contained in reservoirs is conductive, and so it's not resistive. So resistivity is the opposite of it. So having something that's highly resistive means it's generally speaking a hydrocarbon fluid. Now, where this has been called a potential hydrocarbon column, and it looks like gas fill, is a really technical detail, and we've been more conservative with this than a lot of other companies would have. So under the ASX listing rules and under the SPE, so the Society of Petroleum Engineers rules, in order to declare a discovery, you have to obtain a fluid sample back to surface. So that's a very important criteria in order to declare a discovery. So when we saw the log analysis and we saw that from the density readings that the rock in this section was potentially tight, and that's been caused by the proximity of where we've intersected this horizon right near the fault zone, and we've had some alterations of the reservoir quality because of where it's located. So we agonized over whether we send in the formation pressure sampling and pressure and sampling tool, because our service company only has the standard probes available. We did request the dual packers, but they don't have any available. There's huge shortages of tools in the industry at the moment, and they couldn't provide us one. If we'd had the dual packers, we would have gone in and we would have tried to get a sample, but because we drilled in such heavy mud conditions, and that was for safety reasons, because of this potentially large column at a very, very shallow depth, and with gas buoyancy, that becomes an issue with your pore pressure. So because we drilled in such overweight mud, that forces drilling mud into your pore space, and it means that trying to get a valid pressure, you've got to withdraw that fluid out of there to go and get your virgin pressure, and then to get a sample, you've got to clear all of that mud, filtrate away, and with a normal probe, which has got a diameter probably the size of your index finger, to put on the borehole wall, that represented a really low likelihood of success in getting a valid pressure and sample. And then also there was some increased risk of tool sticking. So because of the big differential in the mud weight of what was in the hole versus what's in the reservoir, it actually forces the tools and the cable against the borehole wall, and the tools can get stuck. And if they get stuck, sometimes you can't remove them with the wireline cable, and then you've got to go and sever the cable, and then you've got to go and fish the tools out, which is expensive. And if you can't get the tools out, you've got to junk them. This tool in particular is about $2 or $3 million. We've then got to push it to the bottom, all the way to the bottom of this 12.25-inch hole section, cement it up, and then sidetrack around it. So it really, from a risk versus reward perspective, it would have really we made the right call. I believe it, agonizing, as I said, because obtaining a fluid sample meant we could have declared a discovery, but we just couldn't feel we could get there with this reservoir quality that was in this location. So a really just frustrating from that point of view, because the original well design for this particular prospect was really focused on the deeper targets in the Pebbly Arcos and the upper Angua, and was originally a vertical well. When we got the new seismic and we saw this, really compelling amplitude in the 200 horizon, we changed the well design to a deviated well so that we could test the 200, some of the targets beneath that, and then get the well down into the Pebbly Arcos and the Angua. So from a well design point of view, we've had to limit the deviation of this well to 34 degrees. Anything above 35, you start to get issues with running wireline tools in, and sometimes casing, depending on how severe your dog legs and your angles are. And we can't risk not being able to run wireline tools in this primary section that we're interested in the 8.5 for the Pebbly Arcos and the upper Angua. So we've had to maintain that deviation. So to get from where we are at surface to tag the 200 meant we had to be a little bit further north than we were more comfortable with. We thought in this location, we were right on the edge of that bright spot. And I'll show you that slide in a second, that we'd be okay with the reservoir. And on the camera, it looks very clean. I'll show you that in a second, but we've had some kind of alteration around this fault plane. So really, a really frustrating result, but nonetheless very encouraging. It looks as if we've got an active and working hydrocarbon system in this basin, which is obviously from our point of view a huge relief. Bodes really well for the rest of the program, and it may not come across in this, but it's a really good result. I think we have been conservative in how we played this. Obviously, we don't want to run afoul. I think a lot of other companies would have been more aggressive and declared this a discovery. We've seen that with other companies and previous wells, but we play by the rules, and we don't push this further than we're allowed to. So that's a summary of the 200 where it sits. I think one of the other things to take out of this announcement really is around one of the primary risks that was identified pre-drill for this basin was really the presence of seal, and that was the major risk. Everyone's told us that there's too much sand in this basin. Even if you look at the stratigraphic chart that Mobil had, and we've been working off, and that's only been based on surface outcrop. There's a hell of a lot more clay in this basin than we ever expected, and we've got a huge big shale and seal at the the base of this whole section that we drilled, and that's why our drilling rates were a little bit slower. So we've been able to drill through the shale at sort of 5-10 meters an hour, which is pretty hard going. But in the reservoirs we're getting 65-70 meters ROP rate of penetration through those nice clean sands. So a lot of seal. That has been put to bed in terms of the presence and effectiveness of seal. We've got a very effective seal in this basin and in that bland section of seismic that I'll show you. That we thought that would be there, but from our seismic facies characterization, but it's turned out that way. It's behaving really well in that respect. So having this big, thick regional shale sitting above our primary targets, where we've got reservoir, we've got source rock, is a really encouraging as we head in towards the main game, which has always been our primary focus in the Angler in particular, but also in the Pebbly Arcos. So just back to the well trajectory, this has been drilled quite at the 200 horizon on the flanks of the structure, and again, it was because we were trying to optimize the trajectory for these lower targets, but we'll be intersecting the Pebbly Arcos in the upper Angler in a more crestal position, which is ideal. So from a forward-looking perspective for the 200, really interesting result. We've got the ability now to go up and follow up and away from this fault plan, and I'm talking about maybe if we were 50 or 100 meters away further to the south, I think we would have had a very different result, and we would have been sitting and talking about a discovery in the 200 in our very first target, which would have been unprecedented. But we're just short of that, not being able to get a fluid sample and bring that back to surface. So we've got we've got a huge big area now with this 200 that this amplitude covers. It looks as if it's behaving really well from that respect, and really encouraging. So really good first up result with the target, and very encouraging as we go now into the main game beneath us. So the forward plan, we set casing. The cement job's gone very well, and we're getting ready now to drill out in that 8.5-inch hole. So we will go through the base of the 400 in the forest, and there's some target reservoir in that, and then through the 500 in the Pebbly Arcos, where we've got a nice flat spot that we'll be drilling through, and then in the 600 and 650 in the upper Angler alternations member down to about 3,500 meters. We may be able to go a bit deeper. The hole condition in this well has been very good. We've had no issues and only a few little tight points but that's all behind casing now. So the shales and the mud system are reacting really well. We're not having any issues with any borehole stability. So that's been another really pleasing aspect of this well that's gone well. So just a reminder, we were drilling Mukuyu, so this is the 200 outline horizon, I think. We're drilling Mukuyu roughly here, and this is where it is in the 200 location, but we're deviating this 35 degrees to the north, and we're going more crestal in through here. And then Baobab, which is the second well, we're drilling on the space and margin southern flank. So looking at where we are in the well, so we are at 2120 meters measured depth. We're at about 3/4 of the way through the forest, and all of that so far has been very shaly. We've got some reservoir targets at the bottom of this section. The reason that we TD'd in this a little bit shallower than we initially anticipated is because we've had this big thick regional shale that we've gone through. We were able to set casing for this section in through here, and that provides us with great stability, sitting in a really competent shale, so that we've got the pore pressure window then to drill out the rest of this in 8.5-inch hole all the way to TD. So one of the concerns was that we wouldn't, because of potentially, and everyone was telling us it was very sandy, not finding competent shales to set casing in, and cement it in means that the formation strength of where your shoe is and under here is compromised, and that's the weak point from a fracturing point of view for your mud weight. But with a really competent shale, that means we've got a huge pore pressure window to play and sets us up well to get to TD. So looking a little bit closer at the results, the scale on this isn't ideal, but trying to show here what we've been through and what we're coming up with. So this is the surface location of Mukuyu. So we drilled down this first whole section up to here, 593 at was the base of the 17.5-inch hole. We've then drilled a 12.25-inch, and you can see we've kicked off roughly here and drilled it all the way down to 2120, which is here. We can only log above that because you can't get the entire tool string all the way to the base, and you don't really want to touch the bottom either with these very expensive and very delicate tools. So you typically have a rat hole above that you log, and you lose 30-40 meters sometimes at the base. So we can see what we're looking at here is this bright amplitude in the 200 through here, and this track overlaid on the well trajectory is the gamma ray. So gamma ray is a tool and a reading that allows you to discriminate between sand and shale. So the lighter colors here in the yellows and oranges are the sands, and the darker browns are shales. So we can see here as we've got some sands through here, and this zone of interest where we had this elevated resistivity is in here in this bright amplitude. Now, where we tagged this was right on the edge as this amplitude started to dim. So we've got a nice clean sand, but there's still some work to be done here to understand it and where this reservoir alteration has come from. But we're right on the edge of this fault plane here, and you can see there's quite a lot of gouge through here. So there's been some sort of alteration of the reservoir properties here. As I said, if we were maybe 50 or 100 meters further to the south this way, it would be we'd be sitting here with a very, very different story and having declared a discovery. So agonizing, but we had to locate this well here because to maintain this, so this is at 34 degrees, this angle through here, and we couldn't pull this any further north because otherwise we would have missed where we're trying to intersect this flat spot. So you can see here, this is where we're trying to hit this in the pebbly arcos. We're not, if we move this well further south, we wouldn't have been able then to get into this down here in the upper angua, because the angle to turn would have been too steep through here. So it was necessitated to prioritize the primary targets, and you're always making compromises in well trajectories, particularly when you've got so many targets to try and hit. But look, we've got some excellent now follow up to go and test this 200 in. We've got a huge big 200 square kilometer area now to go and chase this, and shallow, much cheaper to drill if we want to go and just test this individually and not have to make any compromises. We can go and try and test this in an optimal position. So what we can see through here is we've got some clean sands, we've got some shales, and some very good shale through the top of this this forest. So we've got a whopping great big section through here, which forms a really competent seal. And this is coincident with this quite bland seismic facies that we see through here. So this is a huge, big regional shale acting as a seal above these primary targets. And this is where we see all of these interesting amplitudes and flat spots, and where we've always been focused, particularly because the Angua is where the source rock is. So the migration and the trapping of this beneath these big shales through here obviously set up ideally. So really encouraged as we go ahead, and look from other points of view, being great to be out at the site with all of our team. They're doing a fantastic job. We've got a very experienced team. We have had some challenges, and I've been in situations before where if we hadn't had such a good team in place, it could have really gone sideways, particularly with some of the failures, the best laid plans we had in place, and the lack of backups that have been provided. And in spite of our contract with our service provider being frustrating, but we've persevered and got through a couple of sticky points, and things have been much smoother in the latter half of this, and got a new crew, local crews on the rig floor that is doing well, now used to running pipe, tripping, running casing. So everything's getting smoother and getting quicker. So we've had an interesting start, frustrating start with some of the things that happened, but now we've got into a groove, and things are going well. So with that, I'll hand over to any questions. So we've got is an option to come back at the end of the drill program to test the section. So no, not we could, depends on what happens in this bottom hole section. So there is that ability, because it is behind pipe. We haven't had any final plans for this whole section. We'll see what happens. The horizons below the 200. I think I've explained that, and we've still got those to go. We've got the base of this 400, 500, 600, and 650. Will there have to be a cap raise to do the next well? No, look, not for Baobab. We've done that. We've done that already. Can you comment on the leaky ship? I've had some emails on this. We've obviously had a look at the register. What we believe is happening is that because there's a lot of interest, obviously, in this story and in our program, no news is being interpreted as bad news. You have one seller that starts selling, and everyone panics, and it creates this doom loop. It from my point of view, having news out there before we've announced it doesn't do me any good. So I'm not out there. I've got better things to do with my time and focusing on this program than sitting and telling people what's going on. People who often contact me, I've maintained radio silence with all of them. I'm not commenting or replying to any phone messages, to any emails, to any texts. So if you're ringing me up and trying to email me asking me what's going on and what's happening, I can't tell you, and I won't tell you. So that's what we believe is happening, and it doesn't do the company any favors, obviously. So no, I don't believe there's a leaky ship, and it's certainly not coming from anyone in our team. So the next one is, do you consider the phi? I'm guessing porosity. So we've got someone who knows about But oil and gas in the 200 at technical discovery, look, we're close. I would have liked to have, obviously had a sample, and that's the be all and end all of it. And then from a gas reading, so gas chromatograph. So look, that was one of the other issues that we've had during this whole section with the failure of the mud gas system. And again, been a very disappointing performance from our service provider, where we've had breakdown of critical equipment that's led us to not have as much information as you would like to ideally. At the end of the day, though, as I've always said and maintained, your wireline results for a conventional play, which is what we're chasing here, is what we're after. So it does help you to make decisions, put more piece of the puzzle together. But unfortunately, we've had some issues with the system. It's now been fixed. They've sent some techs in and flew them in, and that's been fixed during this break whilst we were wireline logging and running casing and cementing, and that will be up and running for the next whole section. So is the country open to frack if required to produce the tight 200? So look, we don't believe it's going to be tight elsewhere. This is just where this well location is, right on the edge of this fault plane. And you can see we've got those dimming, got these big bright amplitudes through here, and then we've got some dimming around the fault plane on the upthrown side, and this is where shifting either further to the south here or over to the next fault block, this is where conventional reservoir is going to be. It's a very nice clean sand on the gamma. You can see this is the brightest yellow out of all of them, and we're seeing some good behavior in the reflectivity correlating to the gamma ray, where it's showing these clean sands. So this is where we are coming now into the bottom wear, and in the angua we've got this alternating reservoir and source. So and we've got the stonking great big seal above us. So we're from a conventional point of view, this is what we're chasing. And then what do you realistically see and expect to be the main catalyst over the next 1 to 2 months? Well, that's going to be the drilling results. That's what we're focused on, and that's what what we're here to do is come out and discover hydrocarbons in these wells. How confident are you in the lower sections? Personally, is there provisions and equipment on site for a well test, or would it just be to log the well first? So, as I've said, we haven't got the equipment on site to test wells. That requires a lot of pre-investment from test beds, packers, perforating guns, and the rest. And so to make that pre-investment before we've got results is ambitious, but also we wouldn't be able to go straight away and test it even if we had the equipment there, because you've got to do a lot of planning to run a well test. So if we do have some if we've got some discoveries in these low hole sections, what we will then do is suspend. We'll suspend this part of the well, so we'll put some plugs in. We may run a 7-inch liner as well through here, just depending on how we view things. Suspend the well, bring in a test bed, and then plan the well test, and that would be at some stage next year. So, but no, that'll require a little bit of planning, but we'll be able to wireline log. We've got the formation pressure and sampling tools out there for conventional reservoir, and so we will be able to, and where we're intersecting these, we're expecting good reservoir quality based on what we've sampled at outcrop as well. And so that is that's the plan, and then retrieve hydrocarbon samples to surface from the wireline and the formation sampling tool. When will the market get results on the upper angua? So as we've said, we will provide results once the wireline logging has been done. So we can get indications from the MWD, but ultimately, as we've seen with the 200, the wireline results are what counts. So that's when we'll release results. That's when we have definitive answers. I think I've explained the bottom hole samples pressure gradients. Another question is, given the near miss on the upper targets, are you now reasonably confident that there are hydrocarbons there? Would you be looking to sink another exploratory well into a more optimum location? So yeah, the answer is yes. We do think there are hydrocarbons there from the resistivity signature, and in the sand with the neutron porosity. That the only issue that we've had is with the density caused by this complex mineralogy in this, which is deemed it tight in this particular location close to this fault. Coming away from the fault, we think it's going to be a different story. So to get gas into this very tight rock, very difficult. So we think it's, potentially migrated up to the top. It squeezed it into this tight rock through here, and in through this, what we think is more conventional reservoir. It's going to be a different story. So then in the 250 and 300 horizons, so yeah, with those, nothing commercial, potentially some hints with residual, but not enough to warrant any further interest in this location at this stage. So at the moment, we've had a really good result in this 200, frustratingly close, but that's where that's sometimes how things play out. And remember, this is the very first well in the basin. So having a result like this, first well, first target, that's really pleasing and nearly unprecedented. So we're excited. It bodes well for the rest of this whole section. As I said, we've got the main game and the primary targets to come. If you look at our internal risking and our chances of success, we always felt that the 200, 500, 600, and 650 were the ones that had the best chance of coming in. So far, that's playing out. So yeah, that's I think I've answered all the questions that have come through. If there's anything else, you've got a window of a couple of days before we're drilling again. So I can so now that all of those questions and queries that have been sitting in my inbox and on my phone, if you've got some others, you can contact me now. But whilst we're drilling, I'm not going to be answering any emails, any phone calls. If you want to know what's going on, like everyone, you'll have to wait until we put in any announcements out. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for your support, and looking forward to this next whole section, and hopefully bring some positive results, and something that's on the right hand side of the column, from a technical perspective, rather than this agonizing result that we've had in the 200, but nonetheless really good first up results, and yeah, looking forward to what comes next. So thanks very much.